welcome to Classics with Kelsey and Sarah, Season 2.
Yes.
And today we're here to talk about Hinds Feet on High Places, which is such a cool book.
Yes, it is. So this was our second time to read it for both of us, actually. Yes. It's been probably at least 10 years for me.
Yeah, and probably close that to me as well, which is kind of sad because it's such a good book.
Yeah, definitely.
It's an allegory of the Christian life, and starring Much Afraid. And she is very afraid. The names are kind of say it all.
Yes. And
it's her journey to grow closer to the shepherd, which is the allegorical figure of God. And I found it a very powerful reread.
Yes.
Got so much more out of it this time. She goes on this long journey to reach the high places, which is like a spiritual high place, which it's kind of different than like Pilgrim's Progress, where it's a journey of life and then they reach Celestial City, which is heaven, and they're done. This one, it's kind of, you get the even at the end of the book, you get the idea that the story will continue on. And
yes, because, just like in our spiritual life, there's never quite the destination until the very end. And,
yes.
But once we reach one part of one victory, there's always more that we need to strive for.
So what to you stood out most with the second reading?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think I think the most memorable parts for me when she was traveling with the two companions that were silent.
Yes.
And I cannot remember their names, actually.
Sorrow and Suffering.
Yes, Sorrow and Suffering. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, and so they were silent, and it was just really interesting how they helped her over certain obstacles and things, but they didn't talk, and she didn't feel like they were very comforting. But it was just a really neat picture of how that how even though something's not pleasant or joyful, you can still it still helps you through obstacles and growth.
Yeah, and how poignant it is. It's sorrow and suffering, things that we would rather avoid, but how true it is in the Christian life that they help us through some of the spiritually very difficult times, even without us realizing it.
Yeah.
I think for me, one of the scenes that kept recurring to me after I read it is the scene where they see the flower, Acceptance with Joy. It's this very small part of the book, but they're staying in a cave, and Much Afraid sees this little flower growing out of the rock, and is just kind of like it's growing where nobody will appreciate it, and it tells her that its name is Acceptance with Joy, because it accepts with joy where the master has placed it and the role it has for it. And that was just, I think that a lot of times we can feel kind of overlooked in the back corner and stuff, and I thought that was very powerful. It's like, I want to be that. I want to be Acceptance with Joy. So there was a lot of really good life lessons tucked in there.
Yes.
And very beautifully written.
That's for sure. Yeah, and it was just a really beautiful allegory, and lots of scripture, almost like a devotional read too. And that just kind of carried you through. And there are so many things that you could just apply to your own life. Really, that everything felt relevant, like it fit.
Exactly, and I think. And it's definitely one of those books I think you could read at different points in your life and get different things out of it.
Yes. Yeah, and it's not even a very long book either.
No, it's not. It's, let's see here, this edition, which is a fairly large print even, is only 254 pages, and and the print's fairly good size in this too, so.
Yeah, I think mine was maybe 150, and it was a smaller book, so but it was good. And I find Hannah Hurnard, the author, she lived a very inspiring life, I think, just as a missionary, and just, the different places she lived, and the different things she wrote about. I think she was she had a lot of good things to say.
Yeah. Well, this is the only book I've read by her, so obviously I need to read some more of her stuff.
Yes, I think so. Yes.
Especially, I'd love to read the sequel, Mountains of Spice.
Yes, yes. I know I read that one, but it's been... I read it right after I read Hinds Feet on High Places, like 10 years ago, so I don't remember all of it, but it was... I think it had to do with the Song of Solomon.
Oh,
so,
right.
Yeah, kind of an allegorical look at that.
Oh,
so.
that's cool.
Yeah.
So, we both highly recommend this book.
Yes, for sure.
This Christian classic, Hinds Feet on High Places by Hannah Hernard. Thank you for joining us so much this week, and next week we're going to be talking about Journey to the Center of the Earth, right?
Yes, that's right.
So another Jules Verne.
Yes, thanks so much for watching.
Yes, thank you. Bye.
Bye.